Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Amateur Repair Time. Last week we worked on this, we didn't really work on it, but we looked at this Silvertone console radio. I believe it's a 4685, I believe is the number of it, that I was able to pick up down the street a little bit. And we looked it over, figured out we couldn't find schematics for it, and then we found some similar schematics from a different model. So we think we're good with that. So it's time to start actually working on it. The cabinet has a great look to it, I think. It's a little thinner than some of them are. I love the design of it. And Silvertone was the Sears brand, so this was a radio sold in Sears back in the 1930s. So I'm very excited about it. Can't you tell? And it has a magic eye. This is the first one I've worked on with a magic eye. Who knows if that tube works? But I think we're going to go ahead and start cleaning it up. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove the tubes and kind of clean off the chassis as best I can. Here's what we're starting with. It's pretty filthy. Now, I don't know that I'm going to get it sparkling, but I can at least get all the dust off of it and clean it up a little bit and make it look as good as possible. For me, at least. So I'm going to remove the tubes. I'm going to carefully use a stiff bristle brush to kind of brush it off, remove all the stuff, try not to break anything. And we'll just see if we can get it more presentable so I don't keep making a big mess all over everything while I work on it. Apparently this thing's been sitting for a long time and it doesn't look like it's ever been touched. It'll be interesting to see how many of the Silvertone tubes are still in it or if they've swapped those out for other ones. All right, so I have cleaned it up a little bit, cleaned off the dial, cleaned up really good. When I first got it, when I saw the pictures, I thought that the dial was all faded and was like art on a piece of paper or something, and I'd have to figure something out. But it's a piece of glass, and it was just dirty, so cleaned up really good. I cleaned off as much dust as I could. I used a little bristle brush, little tiny one, to get under everything I could. There's still a little bit underneath the tuning capacitor. And then I wiped down what I could. And you can kind of tell what's going on now. It ended up looking great. So I'm very happy with that. I think everything's actually in pretty good shape. There's a couple little things that I didn't like. But all in all, everything's good. For what I know, it's got the typical stuff like this isn't turning with the knob; it's slipping. I gotta figure that out and stuff like that. But all in all, everything's cool. None of the pots are seized up. I don't have the knobs on them, so they're a little tough to do, but that's fine. This is the tone. This is the volume. And on off. And then this is the tuning. It's slipping, but so yeah, it's actually in pretty good shape. Okay, so there were 5 of these shields, interference shields, I guess you'd call them. And 8 tubes. 4 of the tubes are Silvertone, could be the original Silvertones, and 4 of them have been replaced. The magic eye is a Silvertone. And they have these little logos on them. Retube with Super Silvertone. RCA licensed. Sears, Roebuck and Company. So since it says RCA licensed, does that mean the ones that are RCA are probably original? How often does a 6Q7 go bad? Is that the original? Adco, that's a replacement, surely. Raytheon is a replacement. And this GE is, I guess, a replacement. We might get real cutesy, and whenever we get it up and running, I might swap the tubes with Silvertones if I've got Silvertones. I'm not going to buy specifically buy Silvertones, but I've probably got a bunch of them. I've got a ton of these tubes. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to throw away the power cord. I'm going to keep the end of it so we can put it on our replacement one. And I'm going to throw away this wire. This was hooked up to the antenna. I don't think it's original to it or anything. It's just an old cracked up wire. The power cord is all disintegrating, so I want to get rid of it and clean up this mess. And then maybe we'll go ahead and test the tubes. What do you think about that? If we test the tubes, it might tell us, if we find a fault, it might tell us an area to look in. Basically, you know, we're going to do all the caps anyway, but if we have a bad tube, then maybe we'll know to look extra careful in that area. I'm going to check all the resistors and stuff anyway, but I don't know. It'd just be interesting. All right, folks. So I think all the clocks are about to go off, but just ignore those. Okay, so we're going to test some of the tubes, or I guess all of the tubes, in my Model 747 B&K Precision Mutual Conductance Tube Tester. So first we're going to do the rectifier tube, which is a 5Y3. Now this says 5Y3G. The one I have is a 5Y3, so I don't know, you know, if that matters or not. 5Y3. So heater 5 volts, sensitivity 24, socket 17, and then we're going to hit test button 1, and then we're also going to hit test button 2. So test 1, let's see if it does anything. I don't even see any glow in it. I'm not convinced that we're hooked up properly, but we'll see. Well, never mind. Looks like it's all right. Now it says HV rectifier okay above 40. You see that? And this is a rectifier tube, so I don't know if that's where it needs to be or not, but we're in good regardless. So that was test 1. Let's try test 2. It's the same. All right, so my tester is telling me that that is fine. I don't see any glow though. Let's see if I can get us some orange. Do you see any heater? Oh, there it is. It's up at the top. All right, so yeah, it's fine. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. All right, so we are up to the 6K7G. There's 2 of them. One's the RF tube, one's the IF tube. And we get to use our little clamp on the top. It's barely hanging on. It might pop off, but so we got that all set up. 6K7 heater, 6 volts, sensitivity 96, very sensitive. Socket 24, all of these settings for the pins. We've got our anode hooked into G, and we're going to hit test button 1, see if we get anything. Not great. Matter of fact, decidedly bad. All right, let me hook up the other one and see if we get anything better out of it. So here's our second one. I can see the heater voltage in it a little better, but I don't know that that means anything. Test 1. That's a little better. So while we're here with it set up for it, maybe I should see if I can find any more of these. I've got a ton of tubes, and I rarely get the chance to use these older ones because I usually don't work on something quite this old. So let me just go see how common those are. And it would be cute, wouldn't it, if I could find some Silvertone ones. This one that we checked was a GE, and this one's a Silvertone. But so let me just see what I've got in the way of 6K7s. So I looked all through my stash. I've got all kinds of tubes. I looked everywhere I could, and I found 2 of these metal can ones. Radiotrons. RCA Radiotrons. I guess these would have came out a few years after the ones that are in the actual radio. So I don't know if they're going to be any good or not. Looks like you can order them online. They're not too bad, but you know, we'll just use what we've got for now unless we discover that it's really not working for us, and then I'll order some. Yeah, that one's a lot better, actually. So that one's better than either of the other ones, actually. I wonder if it's an improved design or something. So that's that one. Let's give this one a second to warm up, and we'll test it too. It's one of those things where no matter how many tubes you have, you never have the ones that you need. You never have the ones you need. Yeah, I looked through all my tubes. I found a whole bunch of them that are for this radio, but these 6K7s are the ones I didn't have too many of. So I've got 4 total. All right, well, the 2 metal ones are both decent. They're well into the good, but they're only at like 73 out of a potential 120 on that scale, if that means anything. But I think out of those 4, we will have 2 decent ones. I could just put the 2 metal ones in, but I think what I'll do is just put the 2 glass ones in, see if it was working like that. Okay, moving right along. That was our RF detector, or our RF tube, I guess we'll call it, and our IF tube. I guess they're amps. It's an RF amp and an IF amp, I suppose. So let's check our oscillator, 6J5G. So the 6J5 was also a Silvertone, and I found another Silvertone. They're both super Silvertones. 6J5G, and then just a regular 6J5. I found 3 of those in the metal can as well. So Sylvania, RCA, and GE. I got the full complement here almost, folks. I need a Philco and a Zenith, and I'll be done. So let's see. This is the one that was in it. Let's see if it's any good. Well, it ain't doing nothing. Let me make sure I got this right. 6J5, 69314. Let's correct everything off. Test button 1. Must not be making good contact. There we go. That's a little better. Let it warm up a little bit. That's pretty bad. So the thing may have worked with a tube that bad, but it's not going to do much. That's pretty rough. All right. So maybe that one's a negative. Let's try this other one here. I'm getting much hotter glow on that one. Sit at the top. I don't know, you know, I'm not sure that even matters, but definitely getting a much better result on that one. That was one I just had in my stock. I got that from Bob's collection, which is actually where I got this tester as well. It's marginal. I mean, it's barely up into the good area, so it's probably usable. So now you have this quandary. Do I go ahead and throw this away? It's not testing good at all. I hate to. I hate to, but that's how hoarding gets started, people. I mean, it's all right to have thousands of tubes, but once you figure out that one isn't good enough to use, you kind of need to junk it, don't you? Let's see what this one does. To some of you, this is going to be boring as hell, but to some of you, you're going to think this is great. Oh man, testing tubes, that's so cool. Gotta let it warm up a little bit. Yep. Consistently, those metal can ones give better readings than those older glass ones. They must have figured something out. So, you know, it's one of those things, you know, I'd love to leave the original Silvertone tubes in it, but we don't even know that those are original. And if the tube's bad, the tube's bad. It doesn't matter if it's original or not. All right, let me, I think I'm definitely going to throw this one away. It's nothing compared to one of these and even this other Silvertone. So I think I'll throw that one away, and we'll go from there. All right, so moving on to the next one. All right, we have moved on to our translator. Now, I gotta say, I haven't really done one with this many tubes in it before. So this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tubes involved in the, counting the rectifier, not counting the magic eye. The ones I've done are all like 5 tube. So this is where the extra stuff comes in, right? So it's the translator, it says. Which I guess is just another way of filtering the amp, the RF. So it's a 6L7G, and I think I've only got this one. Luckily, it's in the at least questionable area. It's also a Silvertone. It could be the original one. And that's good, because I don't have another one. Unless I missed one. I don't think I missed one. All right, so moving right along. Okay, so we are up to the detector. And it is a 6B6G. Now, I've got a whole ton of 6BG6s, which is a completely different tube. It's not a cross. But a 6B6G is a 6Q7, and I've got, that was what was in it. So they had swapped it out at some point with a 6Q7, which is another metal can one. I've probably got some more of those. I didn't look too closely. Let's see if it's any good. Oh boy, it didn't like that, did it? Not good. All right. So I need to maybe go see if I can find another 6Q7. Maybe I had some of those. I wasn't, when I went through, I looked for what was on the schematic, but I didn't look for substitutions because I don't have them memorized. Yeah, that thing's like the worst one yet. Okay, yeah, let me see if I can find another one. Keep your fingers crossed. Well, I did find one more 6Q7, but unfortunately, it's even worse than the other one. So I got a problem there. I'm going to have to order some of those. But that's fine. Through the magic of YouTube, you know, I film these weeks in advance. Some of the stuff I put up, I've been messing with for a year. So through the magic of YouTube, you won't have to wait on that. Yeah, so I definitely need a 6B6G or a 6Q7. I wonder if those are very commonly in bad shape. Okay, so let's move right along. All right, so the output tube is a 6V6. It don't look great, but let's see. Shows you what I know. Damn thing's fine. Well, I found a couple more, so we'll test them while we're at it. This one, so that one was a ADCO. This one is a Ford. I don't know that that necessarily means that it came out of a car radio, but I think it might. So it might be the output tube from a car radio. I've got a bunch of car radios too I'm going to repair eventually. Basically, I find old cool stuff that I like and I buy it, and then I try to figure out how to work on it, test it, repair it. Amateur repair time. You get the deal. Yeah. The old Ford has held up. Look at that. That's in the green, people. Keep in mind, this thing is accurate. I mean, it was just calibrated in 1983. So, I mean, dead on the money. All right, so that's our Ford. It worked fine. Now this is the mighty Westinghouse. Let's see if Westinghouse wants to cooperate. It ought to know. I'm gonna throw them in the, you know, I didn't throw one away. I'm gonna throw them other two detectors away too whenever I get some new ones in. Okay, off to eBay I go. I mean, I gotta buy more tubes. Oh, I hate that. You know me. I hate buying tubes. Yeah, I'm not one to buy tubes. I don't end up with... Drives me crazy. It hadn't quite warmed up yet. I do see some glow over there, though. You know, it's easy to be patient. It's harder to be patient when you're actually creating a video. I mean, I could edit it, but... Okay, I think this one might be bad, this Westinghouse. Going once. We're going to do it like they used to do the Dusty Rhodes arm drop. Okay, we're going to check again. Nope, it's still dead. So after they would lift up Dusty's arm and drop it. He's passed out, people. But you know, they got to check 3 times. They'd lift his arm up again and drop it. He's passed out. And the 3rd time they drop his arm, and right before it hit the ground, he would go. The crowd would go crazy. And then Hulk Hogan ripped off the same gimmick and made it even bigger. I applaud both men. All right. Yeah, this Westinghouse is toast. All right, so that one's no good. It's a bad output tube. But we got a couple of decent ones here. I'm getting all my good ones together where I can pick and choose. How about that? But you know what? There's one tube left, folks. The coolest of all of the tubes. The 6U5. The Magic Eye. The Tuning Eye tube. What a wonderful invention this thing is. I've never had one. And there's one in this set. And then guess what? I was looking through my stash and I found not one, but 2 more that I didn't even know I had. So I've got 3 magic tuning eyes to check here. We're going to test them out and see if we can get them to magically tune their eye. 6U5 coming up. Well, as most of you that know what you're doing on these probably already knew, there's no real good way to test these on most tube testers. So I checked I've got 7 tube testers here that I just found when looking for tube testers, and none of them will test the 6U5. And it's because, you know, the main test is how bright the thing is, but this is the magic eye that was in it. Still a Silvertone. Now, the thing will run with a bad magic eye, so it could be this thing's just junk. And then I found this bad boy. It's a RCA. All this junk on it is nothing special. It's just the foam that they have around it to make it more directional. And then I found this beautiful thing, which is a Cunningham. That thing looks like it's got low use, but, you know, can you really tell by looking at them? So I think out of the 3 of those, I should get one that's at least presentable. So what we'll have to do is just fix the radio and then test it in the radio. It's backed me into a corner here, people. I have no choice but to fix the radio now. Here we go. All right, so we're going to start at the wall like we always do. We're going to start with the power cord. Now, the original power cord I took off in the last video. It was all cracked up and destroyed. And we've got another issue here, or a couple issues actually. The grommet is all screwed up too. So we've got to get rid of that grommet and put a new one in there. I've got some just generic grommets. I think I'll just tie a knot in the back so it can't pull back out of my grommet that I put in. But I don't have any that are the, like this is a really good one where it holds the cord. So it's also, I think, considered a tension relief. Is that what they call it? I can't remember. Basically where you can't pull it out because it's so tight. The grommets I have, they're not that tight, so I don't think it's going to hold it so that you can't pull it out. But if I put a knot, it should do it. So that's the first problem. The next problem is this is a capacitor, I think, which means it's so old it could short, so which means we got to get rid of it. So I think we got to get rid of that too. But before we do that, the cord. Now, I got a present in the mail quite a while back from our friend Neil. It says, Ron, please add to your amateur hour junk box. So, let's see here. There's this thing going on with Amazon that is amazing to me. So he sent this to us on Amazon. If it will... Okay, yeah, it's back a while back. So what it is are really nice kind of nylon looking, or what would you call that? Braided power cords. Very nice looking. Now normally I would just put one of those on there. It's a whole bunch of different ones. I think maybe they're different lengths. This is 8 foot. This is 8 foot. No, maybe they're the same. So there's brown and there's black. So normally I would put one of those on there because they're pretty cool. The reason I'm not going to this time is because I know what was originally on it. So what was originally on it was one more like this. You can see that a piece of it's still there. So it was more of like a smooth thing. It wasn't braided. So I'm going to put this on there, and I'm going to cut off this end and put the original end back on, which I saved. Just for the hell of it. So I'm going to put this back on, and I've got the little disc that goes back on a replacement to cover up the post, the 2 screws. So we're going to do that. But I cannot do that until we figure out what to do about this capacitor, and I'll show you what I mean. And I'll clean some of this stuff up here in a second. Here is the plug coming in. So you've got, all they're doing is feeding the transformer with it. So the good part about that is when you turn this sucker off, you're going to get a nice clean break, and you're not going to have the problem that you have on the Ones with the string, with the heater string type setup on the All-American 5 radios that you saw later on. Since this one has a transformer, you're going to get a real clean break on the power whenever you turn it off. And you don't have to worry about if you've got the plug in backwards or whatever. And, you know, that's an issue on the other ones that everybody argues about. But when it comes in, it connects to this pin here. And it connects to that pin there, which is a capacitor that goes across each line to ground. And it's used for filtering and just to get the sound better. And it's a 0.01 microfarad capacitor each way. So that's actually considered a safety capacitor. If your problem would be is if that cap shorts, this line and this line would connect to ground, which wouldn't be good, and you'd be relying on the breaker in your house to make sure nothing burns down, right? Especially since they're on this side of the switch. So the whole time you're plugged into the wall, which, by the way, none of this stuff is plugged into the wall. The only thing I've got plugged in are those two lights and this light, and I turn it off every time I leave. So I don't leave anything vintage plugged into the wall. If I would advise you not to as well. Get it right where everything works well and everything, but don't leave it plugged into the wall whenever you're not home. But I don't even leave the house with the dryer running, so that's just how I am. But anyway, these are considered Y safety caps. There's X safety caps and Y safety caps. X safety caps connect one line to the other, and Y safety caps connect one line to ground. So these are Y safety caps. So I need to order some of those. I've got some X's, but I don't have some Y's. So I'll order those and get them in. But you can leave them off too. Your sound won't be great, but it'll work without the capacitors there. All right, but we'll get them and put them in. But they are inside that case, I believe. If you look, the wire comes in and connects to here. That's what this is. I can't tell by the number, but that's why it exists. You know, there's a couple capacitors in there. So we've got to disconnect that. So we're going to bring the wire, the power in, and I'm going to connect it. I'm going to add this little terminal strip here, maybe here, if I can get a nice good solder on it. Add that here, and then we can run the power line in and connect to it, run the other power line in and connect to it. Looks like we'll have enough. Well, will I be able to connect over there? We might have to bury it down in here or something. I don't know. I'll figure out where I can put it. Maybe we put it over here. Basically, we got to get rid of this thing. And then whenever we get our X or Y safety capacitors in, we can easily connect them from each line to ground. I'll just connect this post to ground and connect the two safety caps there. So we gotta get rid of this box. So that's first up. Let me see what I can accomplish. Okay, so I put the original terminal, plug, whatever you want to call it, on. Look at this, the blades are slightly crooked. But I plugged it in and it'll plug in like that. So I tried to straighten them, but this is like Bakelite or something. It's going to snap if you bend it too much. So we're going to leave it like that. I think it's pretty cool. I put the little cover back on it. Got it on there good. And then we came up and I put a new little grommet in. Just the right size, perfect size. Brought the cord in, tied a knot in it so that it can't pull out through the hole as strain relief. And then I mounted the little terminal here so that we could terminate our wires. The way I did that, I've got this big old huge soldering iron that gets really hot, and it's good for this exact thing. If you need to heat up the chassis to solder something to it. It is a American Beauty, 110 volts, American Electrical, USA, and it is a 100 watt. Made in Detroit. Very cool. And my little weller there, I think will only go, I've got it turned way up. My little weller here will only, I think it's like a 75 watt or something like that. All right, so then the one wire comes in and connects here and then connects to the switch. The other wire comes in here and then connects to the transformer. So I needed that mainly because of the transformer wire. If I didn't have that wire, like if that transformer wire connected somewhere else, I just would have brought the wire in and connected it there. So I could have just brought the wire in and connected it straight to the switch and then put the cap from the switch to ground. But I needed the terminal to terminate the wire coming off the transformer, so I had to put one in. And then whenever I put the caps, I'll just mount them right here, going from here to here and here to here, and connect that to ground. So I think that'll be pretty good. So there you have it, folks. We didn't get it going yet, but we've made good progress. We got the very first part of it done. So next time, hopefully I will have my tubes that I ordered in. I will have my Y safety capacitors in, and we'll start running through all of these capacitors and testing all of these resistors. I wish I could have got it all the way running in this video, but there's just too much. It's too big of a project to do in one video, unfortunately. What fun would it be to just chop it all up? I guess I could take everything I record and do a super mix, but what fun would that be? All right, so I will see you next time. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, if you enjoy watching people work on old radios that they don't know much about, I've done it before. Check out this video where we did do one in one whole video. I'll see you on the next one. Hope you enjoyed it.